It's actually pretty clear that there are 4 things that you must do in a pitch, and then 2 things that you can do in a pitch, one of which is key, and one of which is icing on the cake. Okay, so what are the 4 things that you must do in a pitch? As far as I can tell, when pitching an idea for a TV show, you want to, 1, tell the buyer, the potential buyer, about the world in which this pitch takes place. And don't be too undetailed in this. If you're pitching a show set in a law firm that does pro bono law, this is a guy, Paul Lieberstein sold a show in this area. A law firm that does pro bono law. This is a specific world. These are lawyers who are working for free, solving charity cases within a larger law firm. And those kind of lawyers have a specific kind of personality. They have a specific kind of work that they do. There's a specific kind of feel to that world. So you start by describing a world. Another guy sold a pitch this year, Dan Hernandez. His pitch called Sickos is set in the dormitory of a medical school. So it's a specific kind of dorm. It's a university show, it's a college show, but a specific take on it. And so he started by describing what this world is like. The world of your show is number 1. Number 2, the main character. Now, if you've heard me lecture before, you know that my belief is that character is the key to success in television. Character is everything. Main character is the most important thing. So inevitably, you're going to have to pitch a description of your main character. What are we looking for in a character? Well, above all, you're looking for complexity. That is what people respond to in a character, is complexity. And when you're looking for complexity, look first of all for contradiction. So Tony Soprano is a murderous brute, but he's also in therapy. He's very sensitive. Another example of a character contradiction. Let's imagine you're going to pitch a show set in the world of wedding photographers. You would describe that world. Then the main character. Well, she's a wedding photographer. She's so good at her job, so confident, nobody stands in her way. She gets the job done. Her pictures are beautiful and emotional and capture the romance of a wedding. But contradiction, in her real life, she's chaotic, can't get things together, can't keep a relationship with a man, has become bitter and cynical about romance. That contradiction is interesting. When we're interested in a character, so often it's that the character has one trait and the opposite. So think about that when describing your protagonist. That's 2. 3 is you must describe the other characters in the show. And this is where the real work, I believe, of the pitch comes in. Because when you think about creating even 1 character is difficult, but creating 5 or 6 is even more so. It seems that the industry standard for people pitching to network right now is 6 characters minimum. Protagonist plus 5. That seems to be the industry standard, no less than that. So you have to do that homework of coming up with your protagonist and 5 other characters that relate to that protagonist. And when I say relate to, what do I mean? In general, when talking about your characters of a show, you want to pitch the secondary characters with some meaningful relationship to the main character. So, with this character of a wedding photographer, she's great at her job, but a disaster in her personal life. She can't keep a relationship together. Okay, so imagine she has a sister who's younger, who's married and has 3 kids. You could immediately feel the relationship between them. She's intimidated, jealous, comparing herself to her sister. So it's not just a secondary character that's interesting, it's a secondary character with a meaningful relationship to your protagonist. You will do best when creating secondary characters if each of them has some describable relationship to your protagonist. So number 1, the world. Number 2, the protagonist. Number 3, the secondary characters. The 4th thing that is frequently expected in a pitch at the industry standard now is a description of sample stories. So this is your 4th thing you want to work up in your pitch. And sample stories do not have to be the pilot. It used to be that people frequently would pitch what they thought the pilot would be in their pitch. I'm discovering that many, if not most of the people who are selling pitches that I know this year are not describing the pilot story, but they are describing sample stories. This could happen, that could happen. The protagonist could do this could happen. What would be an example? For our wedding photographer story, you might say an example would be that she has to take photographs for the wedding between a mobster and his girlfriend. And so she goes into this mafia wedding, and that's a story. When you pitch your sample stories, make sure that you include the ensemble. This is something that I've learned the hard way just pitching to my agents. Use your main character, but describe how the other characters come in. Maybe not all of them, but one or two coming into that story in each of your sample stories that you pitch. So those, I would say, are your 4 requirements when you pitch. Doesn't sound like too much, but you'll notice when you go to describing the characters, there is some work to be done. When you go to describe the stories, there's some work to be done. Those are your 4 things you must hit. Now, here are the 2 things which you can hit, one of which is becoming so well known as a technique that it's almost the 5th thing on your list. Every single person I know who sold a pilot this year started by telling a personal story, literally talking about themselves before they even tell what the pitch is, and the pitch comes out of that personal story. So with the wedding photographer one, you might say, when I got out of college, to support myself as I tried to pursue a career in writing, I worked for a wedding photographer. And I started to observe this whole world of wedding photographers and how they operate. Okay, so you would describe what you saw, how it affected you, etc. Start with your own personal experience, even if you have to lie. This, my agents told me. My agent said, across the board, any client they have who's pitching, they tell them start with a personal story. But the personal story doesn't have to be 100% true. It's worth understanding that because sometimes they don't match up perfectly, but apparently it doesn't matter. If you can create a credible connection between your personal life and this story, that's the way to go. Why is this? I don't quite know why this is. I'm mystified by it a little bit, but it does confirm some things I've observed about the way television is going. If you look at some of the shows that have been picked up, increasingly they are shows which have a strong autobiographical element. I think about the Goldbergs, which was based on a guy named Goldberg, I believe, right? He literally it's about him and his family. He happened to have a Super 8 film of his family as a kid, and he showed the film in the pitch and said, these are the characters, this is the world, etc. He gets on the air, he stays on the air. Blackish is another example. This is Kenya Barris talking about his real struggle as an African-American dad in modern suburbia, trying to give his kids a better life while reminding them of the struggle it took to get there. It's personal and autobiographical, and the power of the show comes in tremendous part from that personal autobiographical element. It may be that the executives over time have come to recognize that when the writer has a personal connection, it all goes better. Or it may be that pitches just seem to go better when you feel that the person pitching them has something unique and authentic to bring to it. Either way, start your pitch with a personal story, for sure. Okay, now here's the one that is icing on the cake, and it's completely new to me. I would not have believed this was true, but it seems to be true across the board. And that is, in your pitch, bring pictures. I would not have done this because I would have thought, oh, this looks cheesy. I'm bringing in pictures. I should just be able to pitch this, tell who the characters are. You should be able to buy the show on the basis of this. I'm going to seem sweaty and amateur if I bring pictures into my pitch. Not true. Everyone I know who pitched a show and sold it this year had some kind of visual aid. And why not? It helps you see the show. So that has changed a bit, and that's something that you can add to your pitch to bring more power.